So put this on your mental bumper sticker. The world is not built for individuality. Temperament is individual. Temperament talks about you as a very specific person before we can even think about other relationships or interacting with other people or even our children or spouse. First, we got to answer the question for ourselves. Broadcasting worldwide from the command center of emotional intelligence, I am the General. This is the Human OS. Just when I thought I could do a podcast that was hardly any notes in front of me, I ended up with like 7 pages of notes anyway. So once again, you may hear papers rattle and shuffle and everything. And, I'll be the Rush Limbaugh of this, sitting behind my golden mic here. I thought it might be helpful to do a little bit of a recap, but first I wanted to tell you for this episode where we're going with it. I had some correspondence over the last several weeks, and I got some great feedback from people that aligned with where I wanted to already go. In the last 3 episodes, we've done 3 up to this point. The first 2 were pretty much to establish what temperament is, what the human OS is, what the tools are that are available, how modern psychology views people, and this movement of temperament. In the 3rd episode, that was a particularly difficult episode to give you. It involved research, it involved a backstory, and it involved a very audacious stance that modern psychology and the studies behind what we are seeing in terms of diagnoses of emotional, quote, disorders may have a reason to look at that again and decide for ourselves how reliable those approaches are in our own mind and for our own sake and for our own health. Now, if you'll recall, as an example, one of the quotes, I have it here, one of the quotes that I have directly from the CDC says this about ADHD. It says ADHD is one of the most common neurodevelopmental disorders of childhood. Scientists are studying causes and risk factors in an effort to find a better way to manage and reduce the chances of a person having ADHD. The causes and risk factors are unknown, but current research shows that genetics play an important role. That paragraph is loaded not only with a contradiction, but basically admitting they don't really know. I remember my second child had colic for 8 months. We were miserable. And we looked into colic. I'd never looked into colic before. I never even heard the word till somebody said, well, it's probably colic. And I looked into all that, and I remember I found basically nothing because they don't know what causes colic. So the child is screaming their heads off, crying at random. Nothing that you do soothes them. All of the gripe water and all of these things that you offer to them have little to no effect. And at the end of the day, everybody has the exact same advice. You kind of just have to let it run its course. We were giving the child those things to not only calm the child and try to help. We're doing our best to try to help with what we knew, but we also needed sleep. And at the end of the day, we had to admit we don't really know what to do, and we don't really know what we're doing. So we're going to kind of shotgun blast everything. We're going to try it all. And maybe, just maybe, something will work. So you try one thing, you wait, you see. You try the next night, you try another thing, you wait, you see. The next night, you try another thing, you wait, and you see. ADHD is basically the same thing. They don't really know what causes it. So we'll try this one thing, and we'll wait and see. And then maybe the next time you come in to try to figure out what's going on, well, then maybe let's try this, and maybe we'll wait and see. And then the next thing we'll try. In other words, they don't know. They don't know. I think it's important to admit that. I think it's important to admit we don't know. Scientists are still studying causes and risks in an effort to find a better way to manage and reduce the chances of a person having it. The causes and risk factors are unknown. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know what causes it. We don't really know what's going on. But we think it has something to do with genetics. Now, that's as broad a brush as a person can paint. That's directly from the people in charge of Center for Disease Control and trying to figure out what's wrong with people and how to manage that better. What I want to point out in all of that is not just a shot at CDC. It's showing you that the resources that we go to for answers, they don't know. In this area, in this environment, and in this industry of psychology, just like we saw from those studies that what the entire third episode was about, where they went into a place that was built to treat disorders, built to diagnose, built to treat, built to handle that, and then release in good faith that it's being handled, most of the time under medication. But even while in the place, everything went skewed. It went skewed for all sorts of reasons, but not the least of which, just like the CDC, not the least of which, and maybe in my opinion the most important, was that it started with the same assumption. Because the approaches in psychology, they all start with the same assumption, except this one. And that assumption is we're already broken, and we're trying to mend it, and we're trying to make the best of it. You're already broken, and now we're trying to heal. You've already been through a lot, and now we're trying to recover. Everything starts with a deficit lens, a deficit bias, a deficit assumption, a deficit belief system, deficit studies, deficit results, deficit research, deficit in everything. Deficit. It starts broken. And that's the assumption. I challenge you to ask, what if that assumption is wrong? The approach of a needs-based lens challenges that entire mentality. We're talking centuries up into today, because again, that's a quote direct from CDC. Up into today, where ADHD is still something that everybody knows is like colic, something that everybody knows might be there, and maybe I'm just walking around undiagnosed. Now that's a diagnosis. I'm undiagnosed. I'm an undiagnosed age. I'm walking around undiagnosed. What if it's wrong? What if the deficit lens is just not true? And what if there really is a better way, but it would start with a different assumption that many are not willing to adopt? And what scares me about it, and why I'm even in this space to offer up my own voice into this, to advocate for this, is because the ones who disagree or the ones who are not willing to adopt this approach that we're talking about here are the ones treating people. They are the best of the best out there. A person has to ask why. Why wouldn't they adopt something that would work? And maybe, not to put presumptions onto people and not to certainly state intentions of anybody, because I truly don't know, but I ask myself, if you know there's a better way, why would maybe, just maybe, we not take that approach? So I'm just going to argue in good faith and say they just don't know. They don't know there's a better way. I don't make that bold assertion. I don't make that lightly. You may not know that Jordan Peterson, Dr. Jordan Peterson, he's so great to listen to, isn't he? You don't have to agree with everything that he says, but he is a brain, ain't he? He's an awesome thinking individual, and he brings a lot of logic to the table, and sometimes tears. You can see how authentic and real he is. Did you know that he is a temperament psychologist? Dr. Jordan Peterson is a temperament psychologist. Now, temperament's what we talk about on this broadcast. This is the whole meat and potatoes of it all, is that temperament is a needs-based approach. Dr. Jordan Peterson knows about temperament. He's a temperament psychologist. I believe he is a temperament psychologist because A temperament psychologist does base how they view things within a realm of an assumption that says there's already something there when you're born. That's genetics. There's already something there. What we just read from the CDC is there's already something broken there. Temperament says there's already something correct and right there, something that's not broken, something that's actually quite healthy and needs to be advocated for and needs to be validated. So I might even give good graces and good faith onto Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson doesn't operate in this exact same space of temperament thought, I believe, because he just doesn't have the tools advanced enough to take him into that headspace. He might be one on the forefront that would need to create it, but someone beat him to it. And that's Dr. John Wayne Worley. He beat him to it. Whether he needs to or not, Dr. John Wayne Worley's 40 to 50 years ahead of even the guy who's on every channel, who's all over social media, and who's already in that space with multiple publications. He beat him to it as a temperament psychologist. Same team, but maybe he just doesn't know that there are resources already available to do the work of getting down to what's most important in people, what's right in people, and what can be advocated for. Okay, that was my little rant. Maybe you didn't know that Jordan Peterson was a psychologist, but he is, a temperament psychologist, but he is, which means his space is not universally unknown, but it's mostly unknown. It's mostly unknown because he would still have to develop the tools. He would still need to advance from the time of Hippocrates, who originated all of this. He would still have to advance that science because most of the assumptions of Hippocrates were actually proved wrong. And that was that physical items like phlegm and bile matched the temperament behaviors. Those have since been disproven. So Hippocrates' assumptions were all wrong, but we still have those words and the idea of temperament that we brought into now the modern space where we can allow different tools, different research, and now the wonderful work of Dr. John Wayne Worley that he has done over the last 5 and 6 decades into that temperament space. He advanced this science. It resonated with me because whenever I took my own WIDP profile, when I read the words, it resonated with me beyond logic. It went way deeper. It put words to thoughts and feelings that I had already known about myself, and only I could advocate them, because I could read someone else's who is not my temperament. I could read someone else's and go, no, that's not me. So I can not only say I know who I am not, now, just like in the very first episode that we established, I can answer the question for myself. I can answer the most important question that every person is on the hunt, either internally, externally, or both, for themselves to become emotionally healthy and become their best self and emotionally aware, to answer that question, who am I? And sometimes we need some help, like with tools and resources. That's what this gave me. It gave me the help, because I would have never found these words. I would have never found the words to describe some of the things that were happening in media, especially some of the things that seem contradictory, which oftentimes in modern psychology we call bipolar. Well, I don't want to start with a deficit lens. That's not, I don't feel like it's a brokenness in me. I feel like it's just something that needs a delineating line. It gave me a delineating line. It gave me the words that I needed. And most importantly, it resonated with me. You know, in the realm of neurolinguistics, which is just kind of how the body talks, the words that we use reflect the mental state that we have, the things that we feel inside. We can have physical responses to thoughts and feelings. In neuropsychology, when you are hearing things that hit you on a real deep plane, you might take what's called a soul breath, which means it might be that sigh of relief, some of those. And you know, when I dug into my own temperament and I found out this is who I am, I've taken a lot of those soul breaths out through the years. Some of them I brought up on myself because I was able to validate myself. It's funny because each time that there was a seminar for WIDP and we would go through the 5 temperaments, and I'm going to go through 2 of them today with you. Each time we would go through those, at some point in that seminar, whether I was giving the seminar or whether I was participating in the seminar, at some point, I would take that soul breath again, because sometimes it's just so good. It hits you deep again, or you have a new thought, a new revelation, a new awareness come in and you go, oh man, because life goes on. Even between several seminars of this stuff, something might happen to grow your awareness. Something might happen to you that hadn't happened before. And then all of a sudden you hear about it again and you go, that's what that was. Oh, that's good. Pay attention in this episode to your soul breaths. I've said that in a prior episode. Let's do it again. I gave you some words, I think it was in episode 2, to kind of compare your feelings. That may happen again today as I talk through. I'm going to talk through what are, in my opinion, the two most popular temperaments. We're actually going to go into temperaments today, because you may feel from the first 3 episodes that we've just barely gotten started. We've really only kind of laid the foundation and the groundwork for it all. But what can I do with this? Get in more. You've talked about it, so get me into it. Well, guess what? Today we're getting into it. We're going to go into temperament. This is going to be a fantastic episode for you. Whether you are these temperaments or not, and high probability says you are somewhere, whether you are these temperament or not, you probably will recognize the information of this temperaments, maybe about someone you know, maybe even a child or spouse. You might recognize some of the characteristics of these temperaments. Now, let's recap this needs-based lens that we are using for the human operating system. This happened to me today, by the way. Today, before recording this episode, I was starving. I had not eaten. It was time for me to eat. And I suddenly go, chicken sounds real good. I think I would like some. I got me some chicken. And I knew that I needed to eat before laying down this episode, because as you might have heard people say before, I need to go and eat so I can think about something else. I need to get me some food. Hangry is a thing. I need to go get me some food so I can think about something else. And I knew I needed to eat first, and then I could wrap my head around the content of this episode. That is a real time. I know my needs, and I know the order in which I need to get those needs met. We can think about great emotional things, even stuff that I am an expert in, but not before we eat. We have to eat first. What? Maslow would agree. Knowing yourself can be so valuable, because not only do I get to validate my own emotional space, and I get to answer the question, who am I? I even know it's time to eat, not just from feeling hungry, but to know later on I need to do something that requires a higher level of thinking. So I better get my lower level needs met first. What do you say to all the kids before you go on a long trip? Everybody go to the bathroom. Everybody go. It's not just because you don't want to stop. It's because that need is going to become paramount. We know we have to get that need met. Maybe we can get ahead of it by going now. So hopefully, rarely ever happens, but hopefully you won't have to go for a while and we can get on down the road and get done what we need to get done. Well, today I got to lay an episode, so I better go eat. Folks, that line of thinking is exactly in this space. I mean, that's the 101. But that's it. It's knowing that there is an importance of how you are made up as an individual. Your human operating system has physiological needs, yes, but you also have mental and emotional needs. And there's an order in which those need to be met. Food comes first. Water comes even before food. You can go a while without food. You can go a while not being yourself, putting your needs on the back burner and faking it till you make it. You can go a while that way. But eventually your organs are going to speak up and go, this is becoming critical. We're going to have to get this met. Bathroom doesn't even wait that long. Good luck having a 40-day fast on the bathroom. It's not going to happen. Your organs will continue to function whether you want them to or not, and whether it's convenient or inconvenient for you. They will function. You will have physiological needs that will call for your attention, and ignoring them is going to be catastrophic for the many pairs of genes that you may own that you will go through. So, So that we don't get graphic, I should move on. But I think you get my point. The needs-based operating system is actually honest to how we are designed. Acknowledging that design should not go against science. It shouldn't go against modern psychology. And yet it may feel like it is, because modern psychology has adopted an entirely different assumption that does not coincide with this, because they want to say you're broken. And the only way that you can be yourself is to heal from all of the broken things. I disagree. Matter of fact, PhD in neurolinguistic disagrees too, because he says you can bypass the healing process. You can not only bypass it, you can go straight to the source. They can't do that for the common cold. They can't do that for ADHD. They couldn't do it in the studies we talked about the last episode. CDC can't do that. And yet here I am sitting there going, oh yeah, we can fast track it. We can fast track you not only to healing, but actually it's not really healing. It's just validating, advocating for what's been there all along. So imagine that we don't call it healing anymore. Imagine we call it authenticity, a needs-based lens, needs you've had all along. Temperament, it answers the question, because the very definition of temperament is who you are. Temperament answers the question, who am I? I can say, sitting in my chair behind this microphone today, I know exactly who I am. And because I know exactly who I am, I know what to say yes to and what to say no to. Do I make mistakes? Of course, all the time. There's always a learning process. But I can navigate that space in a very healthy way, where I can listen to my body, just like the hunger that's in my body, and go, oh, it's time. I can listen to my body going, I think I've been in this space a little too long. Some of you may have that social battery. You've been in the space too long if you enter that space at all. And you go, I need to go home. It's time. I never should have left. Maybe so. You can fake it till you make it, but you can't stay there forever. Eventually, the mask comes down. I also want to say this. Put this on your mental bumper sticker. The reason that this approach is not popular, the reason that this approach is not adopted, assuming that it's known. If it's unknown, then obviously you can't select something you don't even know about. But one of the reasons that this approach may not be the most popular is because it doesn't also really match the way the world works, or the way that the structure of the world is designed to work. The assembly line approach of education and the assembly line approach of the workforce. I think you would agree with this statement, because you may feel it every single day at your work, or you may have felt it in school. And remember, you may even feel it with your kids in school. And with your kids facing those things, you may already have some difficult red flags emotionally that you're having to deal with, because it doesn't feel like your child is getting the correct attention that they deserve. So put this on your mental bumper sticker. The world is not built for individuality. Temperament is individual. Temperament talks about you as a very specific person before we can even think about other relationships or interacting with other people, or even our children or spouse. First, we got to answer the question for ourselves. And you know as well as I do that the structure of the way the world works, it ain't built for a system of individuality. It's built for mass production. It's built for the efficiency of the process. I have a certification in project management. There's 3 big aspects to project say it again, aspects to project management. You've got the people, the processes, and the procedures. And oftentimes the processes and the procedures are paid a lot of attention, but they don't know what to do with the people. I remember years ago when I first went through a lot of my project management training, one of the highlights of the company I worked for was that the processes and the procedures were talked about alongside the people, but then you opened the book and there was nothing about the people. It was all about processes and procedures. So the world's not built for individuality. It's not built for an individualistic mindset. Do you know that in a school of a very close friend of mine, he went to the counselor at that school with a child, and said, I have a behavioral problem, and I need you to help me with this, to the school counselor. Do you know that school counselor, this is a true story, that school counselor responded, oh, we don't do behavior. Maybe that's not news to a lot. Maybe a lot of people knew that already. I honestly believed that part, if not most, of a school counselor's job was to at least address some of the behavioral things going on to help the child navigate themselves through their day. And if they reach some barriers, then maybe we can help them. I thought that that was part of the counselor's job. They literally said to him, we don't do behavior. Folks, there's a gap. And there's a gap not just in the education system, which is, as any teacher will tell you and parent, it comes down to teaching at an individual level. It comes down to individualizing the lesson, because you can teach it to the masses, but understanding still has to come at an individual level. The same is true for this. You can talk about the theory all day long, but when it comes down to it, temperament either hits home with you and it resonates within you if you are one that's mentally ready to receive it and emotionally prepared and honest to receive it. It either resonates with you and either hits you deep at an individual level, or you're not mentally prepared and emotionally prepared for it, and it probably is not for you, and you can, move on. In a school, the whole job is to teach. The whole job is for the child to learn. If the child is not learning, that can come down to a brokenness of that individuality. They have a different learning style. Someone I know very close to me used to think that they were just stupid because their learning style was quite different than most. And that learning style didn't have the time and attention in that educational environment to be able to help them at an individual level. And that was at a small school. So imagine the large ones where you're basically a number. So there's a breakdown of the world addressing individuality because it's really nobody's job. Even the people I thought it was their job, it's not their job. Businesses are not built to address individuals, much less individual needs. Now, there might be industries like hospitality. Hospitality might be an industry that's kind of built for the individual because their whole essence of being is wrapped around paying attention to people. You've got professions like bartending, where you get to talk to people one-on-one, you remember names, you remember drinks, and so you're able to address that at an individual level. And teachers might argue that for the most part, they try in education. They try to reach that at an individual level so that each child can learn. So I know there's effort. I know that this is acknowledged for the most part. My point is that the system is often not set up for it. This is something that we're going to have to consciously and intentionally pave the way for. We're doing that here. This movement of the needs-based approach of temperament, the movement is acknowledging that individuality in each person and that's our reference point of health. So you are governed in your human operating system. You're governed by needs. I got hungry. I needed to eat before I thought at a higher level. Then I could go think I'm not hungry right now. I'm not even thinking about food except talking about it, but I'm not hungry. I'm good, which means now I can get into that mental space and give you this information through this broadcast. I prepared myself for that because I know my hierarchy. My human operating system acknowledges that I need to go eat before I deliver this higher quality stuff. You may need to meet some lower level needs before you can really soak in and take in. I talk about Kyle, and I can use this time to break to thank our sponsors. But Kyle Goodnight, who helps publish this broadcast, said the exact same thing to me. He said, most of the time I listen to your broadcast and I don't really have a chance to soak it all in the first go. I've got things to do. I'm thinking about these things. I'm editing. I'm listening to the sound quality I'm doing. Then I can go back and think at a higher level. That's the concept. He knows that I'm not going to soak all this in. My mental capacity just won't be there to really pay attention to it the first time go. No offense to me, that's expected. But he acknowledges the fact, once I get that done, now I can be in that headspace. You may be in a similar situation where you can think about some of the lower level needs to get met so that then you can step into that headspace. And by the way, a little bit of hard news for you. You may be one of those breaking those generational curses. You may be one of those that is the first in your family. You may be one of those walking into this awareness with no help. No help. And if you are, I applaud you. My hat's off, because that's the hardest work there is. To step into this space that's completely unknown, but something inside you says, I gotta have this. I need this for my own sanity, my own sake, and I will find my way through, because this is important, and I'm important and worthy enough to embrace this and be able to function at this level, or else I'm going to lose it. You may be one of those stepping into that space for yourself courageously, into the unknown, even into changes within yourself and validation of your emotions that you've never had from anybody. So you're going to have to provide it for yourself. You may be one of those. So glad that you're listening to the most important broadcast you'll ever hear. The world is not built for individuality, but we're creating it here. We're creating that space here. I'm going to advocate for you individually. Yes, I've got the mass broadcast to the entire planet on iTunes, on Spotify, on the web. It is there. Anyone can come, but not all are going to be prepped to do so. You, however, you're still here. Hopefully you've listened to the other three. If you haven't, go listen to it. You'll be blessed by it. In this one, we're going to dive straight in. And we're going to get down to the brass tacks of what temperament actually is. There's 5 main temperaments. First, I'm going to talk about Kyle Goodnight and Connie Davis, because they are the ones that, me speaking into this air here, into this microphone, they're the ones making this happen. Connie sponsored me for 6 months. That's 1 broadcast a month. And we've gone through 3 broadcasts. That's 3 months. This is month number 4, broadcast number 4. We're just now getting into the true meat of everything that this is, where you're going to really benefit, and you might even take one of those soul breaths. Connie is making that happen. She's the one who financed this. After 6 months, I'm really hoping that another sponsor comes forward, because we could use it, and this message could keep going with that being enabled. So if that's on your heart, or the Holy Spirit moves, by all means, reach out. Reach out to Connie and let them know you want to be a part of it. But Connie Davis is the one who makes that happen. You can find her at Connie Davis Speaks. That's a website and an email. And you can get in touch with her to not only see what other work that she's doing with her company, Maiden Explorations, and some of the other channels and communities that she has. You can see some of the other people that she's sponsored who are also in a space. Maybe those are some lower level needs for you, like finances. And maybe that's a space that you want to be in, to allow you to step into that higher level of thinking that we're offering through this one. So look her up, ConnieDavisSpeaks.com. She also has a great gift that we will probably talk about next episode, not necessarily in this one, but it is an incredible gift called the gift of perspective. So she's extremely easy to talk to as well. She has a lot of resources, and she works in that area of emotions that she likes to refer to as commerce. So she does commerce as emotional engagement and interaction with people. Maybe that resonates with you. She came from a finance industry, so she brought that over into the emotional intelligence industry that's here. Kyle Goodnight is the other one that I just talked about that makes that happen. You can find him at kylegoodnight.com if you have been interested, or are interested, or know someone that's interested in podcasting. This is the man that will help you get there. This is the man that helped make this one happen. You can hear everything that's happening here is what he does. So he is all about podcast strategy. He can even help you with editing, and he can even help you with marketing. So if you know nothing about podcasting, you can step in with him and he can get you started. If you know a little bit about podcasting, he can take it from there. So you can find him at kylegoodnight.com. That's GOODKNIGHT. Both incredible individuals that I talk with a couple times a month. So easy to work with. And thank you both for helping make this broadcast happen. If it weren't for you, you would not be hearing this on the airwaves. So thank you both with all of me. I want to get into this. I'm ready now. My clock says that I've gone through almost 35 minutes, which means we've got about 25 left. That's plenty of time to get through this together. This was a little bit by special request, but I also was already planning to do this anyway, so everything worked out. Now, as we dive into this, remember, even Dr. Jordan Peterson is a temperament psychologist, but he does not speak the languages that we're gonna have here. He may know the terms, but this approach is from the one that not only am I most familiar with, but I believe, based upon all of my research and my time, which is well over a decade in this, and working with this as a temperament expert, I believe this is the most sound tool on the planet. Yes, on the entire globe. I believe Dr. John Wayne Worley is the first of his kind for centuries. And I believe he cracked it. I believe he got the formula right to accurately read this invisible side of us called temperament. He put it into the right buckets with the right needs for you to be able to find out who you are and put words to it that hit more than just your brain. They hit your soul. It did for me. If there was another tool, if Dr. Jordan Peterson came out with one that was better than this, I would be using his and saying, this is the guy. But he hasn't. I have found nothing on earth like this. As a matter of fact, most of them are several decades behind. When I say this is cutting edge emotional technology, I mean it. I've done the homework. I've looked into the tools. I've even been certified on several others. I've seen the spaces. I've talked with the people, the psychologists, the therapists, the counselors. I've been in that space. I've seen what businesses have in the healthcare industry, in the education industry. I've even been in the oil and gas industry. I've seen what they have at the top levels. I've even been trained within the luxury hospitality space. I've seen what the best of the best has. None of them have this. They don't have it. The multi-million-dollar salaries in the oil and gas industry and on their project team running billion-dollar projects. I've listened to their project teams. I've been in the room. They don't have this. They don't know this. And their people are affected by that ignorance. Workplaces are affected every single day by the fact that they aren't built to address people individually. Our leaders need this information. But most importantly, this broadcast, you as an individual, no matter what your title or position, you as an individual need this first. And awareness is the greatest gift I can give to you. So we're going to dive into that. There are 5 temperaments coming from the approach of Dr. John Wayne Worley. Now, anybody can read up on this. I want to give you a published work that will reflect a lot of what you're going to be hearing today, because I want to make sure that the tools that I have are not just tools that I'm going to hold in my little secret stash. This needs to get out there, and some people need to do more than just hear it. I'm an audible learner. I could learn a lot from this broadcast, but I know that's not everybody. So I'm going to tell you about it, but I also want to know where else you can go to find it, because tools and resources are important. There is a published work by Dr. John Wayne Worley, and here is the title of this book. It's called WIDP. Worley's Identity Discovery Profile, the analysis of the 5 temperaments, maximizing individual and group success. So if you type in analysis of the 5 temperaments, that's TEMPERAMENTS, analysis of the 5 temperaments into Amazon, you're going to see kind of a turquoise green book, and it's going to have a big WIDP at the top of it. That's it. The author is Dr. John Wayne Worley. In this book, he talks about not only the 5 temperaments, but he wraps up a lot of what we covered in episodes 1 and 2, and a lot of the foundation of this inner part of you, this temperament foundation of your genetic code, this assumption that there are things created within your genome from birth. And that's why you have specific mental and emotional needs that you have, not broken, not deficit, valid, legitimate, and perfectly ordered, that make you who you are. And it also is the reason why you navigate that space. Today I was hungry. I needed to navigate my space in a way that acknowledged my hunger before I could step into a higher part of thinking. There are things that govern your life mentally and emotionally, these needs that govern your life mentally and emotionally that you may not even realize are doing it. So you may be riding this emotional roller coaster every day. This is going to help you bring that to balance. It's going to help you understand. And it's going to help you understand logically. I'm going to bring you some data today. It's also going to help you understand emotionally. You're going to feel it deep. There are 5 main temperaments. In other words, think of them as 5 separate languages. 5 separate languages of needs. You can even think of them as 5 countries, each of a different color. And each one of those countries speaks a fluent language of the specific needs of that temperament. We're going to talk about 2 of them today. One of them is probably a well-known word, but has a very derogatory meaning. We're going to fix that today too. It's the melancholy. These are all the way back from the time of Hippocrates. Hippocrates is the father of medicine. He is also the father of temperament. He founded temperament. And so the evolution of temperament into today started with Hippocrates, but I believe that Dr. John Wayne Worley, he's the Sir Isaac Newton of his time discovering gravity. Dr. John Wayne Worley developed temperament in such a way that it could actually be mined and understood. You can pull it out of yourself, look at it, and see yourself on paper. That's what WIDP does. That's what the psychometric evaluation of WIDP, Worley's Identity Discovery Profile, does. We're only as good as our tools, so that's the resource. The approach is the needs-based approach. That's how we get out of the deficit lens and into validating what's inside of ourselves. If I'm repeating myself a lot, I apologize, but this sometimes takes repetition to get our brain into that new space. Sometimes our brain needs to program by hearing that over and over and over again to hear this is the direction we're going. We're not back there anymore. We're not in deficit lens land anymore. We're putting on different glasses, and we're going to use those glasses to see the world anew. We're doing that with temperament. This movement takes mental work because your brain's going to fight you. Your brain's going to fight you and go, this is not familiar. This is not what I know. Matter of fact, this is not what I've been told by a lot of trusted people. I'm paying $175 an hour for my counseling session, which is actually quite cheap. And every time I go in there, I may not come out with a whole lot, but I trust these people. I thought they were in this emotional space. Yes, they are, but they don't operate with the same beginning assumption. And they won't make any money on you if you're healed. They won't make any money on you if you start from the true cause and effect of you, the root of you. And I got a little secret, they won't get there. Because you can't get there without temperament. The best they can get is to try to change your environment and try to see what kind of childhood trauma. That's as far back as they can go. And then they're going to ask you how you would navigate that and what feels right for you. It's the best they got. Best they got, if they don't try to diagnose you first. So if that works for you, great. Maybe this broadcast is not for you. But for the ones who have tried that, have spent a lot of money, and have gotten nowhere, whether it be for you or your child or your spouse or your marriage or whatever that looks like, maybe, just maybe, let's entertain something else. Maybe, just maybe, this resonates deeply for you. Yes, I am flying in the face of modern psychology. Yes, I am challenging the assumptions. Yes, we're going into that space, and you can come there with me. This is the most important broadcast you'll ever hear. Starts with you. So yes, we can focus on other people. Let's just focus on you. Let's focus on you. The 5 temperaments, I'm gonna name them real quick. The melancholy. This is, again, the approach of WIDP. This is approach of Dr. John Wayne Worley. You can find it all in his book. That's on Amazon. No, I do not have a commission code. I get no money from your purchase. You can find these 5: the melancholy, the introverted sanguine. I know they're weird words, but he wanted to keep them. The sanguine, the phlegmatic, and the choleric. You're going to see 5 colors on the front of that book too. He kind of associates a color with each one. Now, I said you can think about a country. There's even animals that's been put to them. That's fine too. But he associates a color, and a lot of the visuals are color related. So that may help you. We're going to start with the blue, and we're going to start with melancholy. Melancholy was called melancholy because Hippocrates said that these people were kind of what he called the black temperament. They were the low-level thinkers. And by low level, we don't mean stupid. Actually, quite the opposite. These are the most intellectual of all five of them. But the melancholy was often prone to low thoughts. The melancholy brain is really powerful. And the melancholy, again, we're in a needs-based perspective here, which means we're going to look at the things that are right in a melancholy. A melancholy, I've got a list of some needs, since we're looking through a needs-based lens. I've got a list of some needs of a melancholy. See if these resonate with you. If you happen to be a melancholy, there's a high chance you might be. But if you happen to be a melancholy, competence is probably one of the most important needs of a melancholy. To appear competent to the world, and of course, to be competent is even better. Competence to a melancholy is why they hang their degree on the wall for everybody to see. They worked hard for that degree, and it shows that they're competent. When they're arguing in a fight, their favorite phrase is, well, I'm not stupid. See, they're arguing competence. They're bringing competence to the table. When they're in a work environment, they not only expect very high standards from everyone and for each person to do their job, they're putting out quality work. They're putting out the best that there is because they are subject matter experts, because competence matters to them. So these melancholies are high value to any workplace. They're subject matter experts and they're detail-oriented, very detail-oriented. They love the weeds because they're good at what they do. So they love getting into the weeds of those expertise. Now, if they don't know anything about that, they might hesitate to get into the weeds because they can't be competent in an area they don't know about. That's why a melancholy may not care for much social interaction. They don't know where the conversation is going to go. So it's hard to appear competent in a conversation that the other person is going to take in spaces that you are unfamiliar with. So they may tend to avoid a lot of social conversations. But if they're about their area of expertise, well, let's get on board. Let's talk about that all day long, and they can. So to appear competent is one. Avoiding making mistakes is actually a really, really big one for a melancholy. Avoiding making mistakes is not only helping them to appear competent and to be competent, it's what drives them to their perfection. It's what helps them with the quality of work and of anything that they put their mind to, no matter if they're doing it alone or with others, doesn't matter. That's what helps drive them is they don't like to make mistakes. They want to avoid making mistakes actively. That's in their thought process and definitely in their decision-making process. So they might hesitate in decisions that they don't have all the information. Here's another one. This is a great one. A melancholy needs daily time alone. I was in a one-on-one with somebody and they were melancholy and I asked them a question. And it's an open-ended question. Now, I'm not melancholy. I don't have these needs. But I asked the melancholy this because I knew they had a need of daily time alone. And so I asked them point blank, open-ended, having no idea what they were going to answer. I said, where do you go for your daily time alone? I hadn't even set the stage for that context yet. They knew exactly what I was referring to, and they answered that question. I said, oh, a bike ride. There was no hesitation. They said, I ride bikes. I said, that's interesting because you mentioned at home there's not a lot of alone time. And when I asked you where you go, you didn't even fight me and go, what do you mean, where do I go for daily time alone? That's a weird question. You literally knew exactly what I was talking about, the fact that you have to retreat to get your daily time alone and that you do it on a bike ride. They knew immediately. Maybe right this second, if I were to ask you, folks, where do you get your daily time alone? Do you have an answer? People that don't have this need, they would cock their head sideways and look at me funny. What do you mean? This person did not do that. They knew exactly what I meant. So where do you go, listener, to get your daily time alone? Maybe you have an answer to that question. If you do, there's a high probability that you have that as a need. And that might be very validating to you that I just validated the fact that you do need daily time alone. I read a lot of books by Max Lucado. growing up and into my teenage years. I thought he was an excellent writer and just read a lot of his books. And one of his books, he said, when I come home, I need 15 minutes. I come in, I hug everyone, I greet everyone, and then I go into my office and I close the door. It's 15 minutes. Everybody knows he's going to get it. And even his wife respects that and gathers the children and has them go, kind of distract him and go do something else while he has his 15 minutes of alone time. But he knows that he has to have it. So he has his 15 minutes, decompresses, and then he comes out and interacts with the family. He knows he needs that 15 minutes of daily time alone. Maybe I know that we most need more than that, but he had a busy family and he felt like that was reasonable. And so he found a way to do it. You may sit in your car in the driveway. That may be the only time that you get your daily time alone. A lot of people I know go to the gym for their daily time alone. They put on their headphones and they're in their zone, and they can do that. They can function that way. Even with people around them, they can just hope nobody bothers them. Daily time alone. Here's another big one for a melancholy: privacy. That's a big one. Privacy for a melancholy can almost be equated to freedom. Privacy is freedom. And privacy is so important because oftentimes melancholies are kind of the penguins, especially in relationships, where they choose one and that's the one for life. So they're going to be private individuals through, say, the dating process. They're not going to be ones that go to Walmart and start talking to people in line and tell them their life story. Some people do. They clearly have different needs than a melancholy because melancholy, they don't just open up their life story. Now, other people may open up their life story to them, but they don't offer that information to just anybody. They're very private people and they like it that way. So it may be difficult to get a melancholy to open up right away. It may take some time and it may involve some trust, but eventually they might open up. Here's another one for a melancholy: independence. I like this one because a lot of times the assumption about independence in any realm is that independence is kind of a passive thing where I do my thing. That's not true in temperament. In temperament, independence is an active need. I saw this happen. It really crystallized it for me. This person that I knew did not have their vehicle for like 2 months. And they're melancholies. They're essentially introverts. They like to be at home and they like their space. They talked about how it's not about not having a car. It's that I don't even have the option. And I went, well, now that's an interesting statement. Because what it reflects is I need to know that I can get in my car. I need to know that I can go handle something if I need to go handle it. I need to know that that option is there. If that option is taken from me, it's like my independence is being taken from me. I'd never thought of independence as active until that day, but it's an active need. So, melancholies, so you private people, so you daily time aloners, if something that you depend on like that to help you be independent is missing or being taken, it may feel that may be why it's a heavy item on your chest, or like you kind of, I don't like this. This is extremely inconvenient, because you're not able to actively be independent. And that'll mess with your mind a little bit. Why? Because independence is a need. So something to think about. I'm also going to give you a gold nugget. I think I've offered this in one of the other ones, but it's okay. Other episodes, that's okay. I'm going to offer it again. Because competence is one of the themes, the main theme of a melancholy, to be competent, there are 3 things. This really applies at work, but it kind of applies always, every time. To appear competent and to be competent requires 3 things. And if you're procrastinating, which a lot of people see as a problem if they're a melancholy, if you're a perfectionist that's been held in a negative connotation, or if you hesitate in decisions, it likely comes down to this. Think about it. Likely comes down to this. You need 3 things in order to be competent, especially from a workplace, but it could apply for anywhere. You need time, tools, and training. When you're in a workplace and they're asking you to do something new and take responsibility for that, there's one key aspect. You need the time, tools, and training to be able to take that on. Otherwise, you will push back. And you say, I don't know anything about that. I can know about that, but I'm going to need some time. If somebody's asking you for something that's incomplete or you haven't made a decision on yet and you're stalling, this is why. It's because you don't have enough time, tools, and training. My father was going to buy a TV. He researched that TV for 6 months, looking at all the options, looking at all the different brands, looking at the pros and cons. Maybe some of you doing this with vehicles. But really anything, any big tool, especially a big purchase. I live on a farm, so we did that with a tractor too. But he did it for a TV. 6 months he researched this TV, and finally he said, "Hey, bud, you want to come with me? I'm going to go to Walmart. I'm decided to get my TV today." "Yeah, Dad, I'm ready to go." So we went to Walmart. He went into Walmart, and there was a brand and a model up there that he hadn't researched yet. And he looked at it, and he looked at the other one that he was going to buy, and he looked back at it, and he looked back at the other one, and he looked back, and he said, "Okay, one more thing." And now let me just Google this real quick. So he Googled it real quick, looked at it real quick because he got all the rest. "Okay, no, I'm good." And then yep, and now and so then he bought it and he wheeled it all out. But even after 6 months, he saw something that hadn't been considered yet. There was still a big decision to be made, and it's a lot of money. So let's just look one more time. And so he did. You may find as a melancholy, this is kind of what it feels like. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is how you become so good at what you do. This is how you go and get your education. This is how you are the subject matter expert of your life, that you are doing these things individually on a daily basis, providing not good, not great, but perfect work, and how you avoid making mistakes. Your perfectionism is a gift. It's what drives you to that quality of work. So remember, if you're stalled out, this may help you tomorrow. You might be able to apply this tomorrow at your work and go, "I know what I need. I need more time. I know what I need. I don't have the right tools. I know what I need. I just need training on this." Then asking you to do it and take responsibility for it is a realistic expectation, but not before. Not before. Now, some statistics. You're going to like this. In WIDP, in the Green Book, it helps to know that there are 3 areas within yourself that it's broken down into. It's broken down into 3 areas. One of them is the social area or your social temperament. One of them is the leadership area or your leadership temperament. And one of them is the relationship area or your relationship temperament. Now, I don't have time to go into the details of that today, but here's what I want you to see. There is a 60% chance that when you rub shoulders with somebody, if it's not you, when you rub shoulders with somebody, there's a 60% chance that they're a melancholy in their social side. In other words, that they're a social melancholy. There's a 67% chance that they have melancholy temperament somewhere in their leadership side, which is often at work. In other words, 67% of the people are subject matter experts, just like you, if you're one of them. 67%. That means they value the same things. It means they have the same needs. It means they need time, tools, and training same as you, that if you're saying it, 67% of the people are probably agreeing with you because they need it too. Maybe not all of them have the pictures hanging on the wall, their degrees hanging on the wall, but most of them do. Even if it's a cubicle, they'll tack that sucker up, man. Just so you know, I'm talking to somebody competent and I've earned it. So if you want to know something and call me to the carpet, you better know more than me. That's a melancholy. They've worked hard for that. They're defending their competence. And there's a 45.5% chance that they're a melancholy in relationship, which means they're one of those penguins that choose for life. That's a melancholy. Okay, so on average, there is a 58% chance across the board that somewhere in some area, when you brush shoulders with somebody, 58% chance that one of those areas, one of those temperaments are melancholy. There's a lot of melancholies out there. They are the highest. They're the most saturated of public society. So there's a good chance a lot of melancholies listening to this broadcast will love those statistics and love to know that there are others out there that have the same needs you do, that can understand what it's like. I think that's so important. I'm going to talk about one more. I'm at 58 minutes on the broadcast, but I just a little more time. I think you'll find this valuable. So, Melancholies, we celebrate you. We celebrate you. You are put together beautifully, and your needs are valid and they're legitimate. You do need time, tools, and training, and it is right for you to be frustrated at work that you haven't received them. When you join a new company, it's right that you go through some sort of onboarding. Give me a hand, but give me something. If you want me to learn new software, it's important that you help me train to get that new stuff. It doesn't matter what area it is; those are always going to be important to you because competence is a need. So remember that along with the other things of independence. Listen to this again and again if you need to, and maybe think back. Did you take any soul breath yet? Think about it if you haven't yet. Just think about it. Think about it. I know a melancholy likes to think. So think about it, roll it around. This episode was for you. I'm going to talk also about an introverted sanguine. Now, this one's kind of cool because when Hippocrates established temperaments, he called them the 4 humors, and there was only 4. So for him, the melancholy, the phlegmatic, the choleric, and the sanguine were all things that Hippocrates established. It was not until, I believe, the early 80s, I could be wrong on that timeline, but somewhere in that vicinity, 1980s and so, that there was one found by the National Christian Counselors Association as they work with temperament. And in their work of developing temperament, they found a 5th temperament. And that temperament they called the supine. If you're a healthcare worker, you might be familiar with that word. Supine literally means to be on your back with your eyes up or your face up. That's a supine, okay? Dr. John Wayne Worley did not care for the word supine. He thought it made more sense based upon the needs of this temperament to call it an introverted sanguine. There's a sanguine, but there's an introverted sanguine. So we're going to talk about the introverted sanguine. An introverted sanguine, you would call them a needy individual, and that's meant to be in a positive light. In other words, they need others to participate, but they don't naturally advocate or speak up for themselves. So you might think that they're melancholy because they kind of are withdrawn or they kind of wait. They're like a prom date that waits for someone to ask them to dance. But what everybody doesn't know is that they have a high need for people to engage with them and include them. So the introverted sanguine was really hard to find. But the National Christian Counselors Association found one. And they found this temperament, and this whole bucket is so unique that it was determined it deserved to be a 5th temperament. It was its own unique set of needs, and that's true. They have a very, very, very unique set. So I want to talk about the introverted sanguine for a little bit longer, and then I'll bring everything to a close here. Thank you for staying in this broadcast. Again, this is not for the stupid. We are diving into this, and I really hope that this resonates with you, especially those of you that I chose this for a reason. It's because you, as an introverted sanguine, depend on others to see you, and I want to be that advocate today. I want to advocate for some needs that may be way down deep for you. I hope you get to take a soul breath, but most importantly, I hope you get to smile today, knowing that actually you are very, very, very well put together, and you have a lot of healthy aspects of how you are made, but I know it doesn't feel that way. I know that life feels a burden. I know that it feels like the world is happening around you, and that most of the time you're kind of suffocated, and you certainly fill more cups than of those who fill yours. Today, I hope I get to fill your cup a little bit. The introverted sanguine. They have some very specific needs as an introverted sanguine. Remember, they don't express naturally very, very easily or very well. It's a very, very hard thing to do, and it's a very conscious effort. But they have a deep, deep need. So keep that in mind as we think about these and think about how that nature would look. One of the most important things for an introverted sanguine that doesn't express themselves naturally is for others to recognize them, include them, and to notice them. This is very important for an introverted sanguine, especially in the workplace, but of course in their deep relationships, if that temperament is in their deep relationships. It's important for the other person or the other people or the boss or the manager to actively engage with them, to actively reach out to them, to actively notice them, actively recognize them, and actively pursue and participate with them, and even actively invite them and engage with them. That may even mean to lunch. Because they're not ones who just invite themselves. They don't speak up for that. Although they're waiting and wondering if anybody's going to invite them. They may see a whole group leave and they want to be a part of that group, but no one invited them. They may want to be a part of an event, but everybody got these mass invitations and they don't feel like they're special. They don't feel like an individual, so they don't go. However, if the person hosting the party comes up to them specifically and go, hey, I wanted to hand you this personally. It's an invitation to a party. And a lot of people got sent this, but I really hope you can make it. I love your company and I love to see you. You know, they may move heaven and earth to be at that party at that point. These are the people who, when it's special, when it's meant for them. And I know they also, many of them, they enjoy gifts and they enjoy personalized service, because it has that personal touch to them. And that's very important to them. So just know they need others to participate in order for them to get their needs met. These are not needs that I can't notice myself just for myself and expect to fill my own cup. That's not how I'm wired if I'm an introverted sanguine. I'm not, but I'm speaking as if I am. So other people participating and other people including, other people recognizing, other people noticing them, they need others to do that and others to initiate, which is why a lot of time that they're really frustrated. So it's okay to be frustrated. Those are very valid needs. It's possible that you're just in the wrong group. And you may need to find those who are willing to do that. You may have a terrible boss who doesn't recognize. Remember, most businesses are not created for individuality. They're not structured that way, and most of the leaders have never been trained in this, so they would never know. So if you have a boss that recognizes you, goes out of their way and sees you, more than likely it's because they are also introverted sanguine, not because they have this knowledge or awareness. So give people grace, but that won't meet your needs. I can understand why nobody wanted to cook that evening, but I'm still going to be hungry. So just know your needs are important. Another thing about introverted sanguines is that another need that they have is they need to be supported and encouraged to achieve their goals. They need other people to help them along to get them where they want to go, because sometimes it's hard for that introverted sanguine to advocate for themselves. Sometimes it's hard for them to motivate on their own to get up and make it happen. A great way to do that, if you happen to be an introverted sanguine or if a lot of these things happen to resonate with you, latch on to somebody who is good at getting out there and getting things done. Latch on to somebody that is a social butterfly. Latch on to somebody that can work that room and grab their belt loop, and then you will be able to get some of the needs met just by being around people who can do that naturally and bring you into that space. That's not cheating. That's a way to do it. So if that's a creative way, so be it. Go insert yourself into that room and then try to make a presence in such a way that others will recognize and walk up to you. Hey, how are you doing? If that's a need that you have. Dating is always frustrating for an introverted sanguine because dating requires the other person to engage. And as a man, sometimes we're most respectful whenever we don't engage. We're trying to be respectful of the person meanwhile they're sitting there going, why in the world do these people come? It's a difficult place to be in, to need other people to act on your behalf while everyone else is trying to get their own needs met. It's not selfish. They just don't know. An introverted sanguine also needs shared decision-making and responsibilities. Now, this heavily depends on what area that you're what temperament area that you are an introverted sanguine in, whether that's leadership or social relationship. But overall, you can resonate with this. Introverted sanguines are great supporters. They're great helpers, and they are ready to follow great leads, ready to follow, and they need good support systems. Whenever it's time they do speak up, they need a great support system. So they're going to follow very competent people, and they're ready to walk alongside those who are competent and capable leaders, but don't leave them out. And just because a leader can make a decision doesn't mean that the introverted sanguine doesn't need to be included in that decision-making process. Even if you don't decide what they were advocating for, they still want to be included. They still want to be brought alongside. What do you think? What do you see? How would you do this? And if the introverted sanguine wants to not do it, they go, oh, I'm good. Well, whatever you decide. Or they go, well, here's what I think. Why? Because you invited them into that conversation. Now they're ready to respond because they're responders. So once you approached, once you recognized, and once you noticed them and invited them into that process, they were able to then speak up. Does that mean it's only the responsibility of everybody else to make an introverted sanguine speak up? No, of course not. I'm saying it helped them get their needs met so that they could respond in their natural and authentic state. So the efficiency of a team in the workplace would acknowledge that there are different motivations for different people. Some people don't need to be invited. Some people don't need to be asked. They'll just speak up. But an introverted sanguine does. And it helps the team along if the leader can go, Jim, what do you think, Jim? Let's hear from Jim first. Hang on, I'll get to your question in a minute. Jim, what were you saying? Just acknowledge and notice them and recognize and ask. And by the way, they will follow that person to the depths because that person sees them and that person notices them and that person acknowledges them. It'd be even better if that person recognizes them, especially for great work that they contribute and the service that they yield for the relationship, for the family, for the work, whatever that environment is. Introverted sanguines, we celebrate you. Matter of fact, introverted sanguines, we didn't know you existed for a long time. But now we do. What a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful tool to be able to become aware. And introverted sanguines, this gift really is also for you because awareness for you is the most empowering gift you can have, to know your needs and to know that they are valid, to know all along you weren't needy. You just needed participation. And it's right that you were asking for that. It's right that you were speaking up for yourself. It's hard for you to say no. It's hard for you to reject anyone. So you need cooperation and participation from people. And sadly, you can't make that happen. You depend on people to be the best humans they can be. So it rocks your world when people won't participate or worse, refuse, especially after you've spoken up for yourself. So those are difficult things to navigate for. I mean, there's so much time that we could spend here addressing every single situation that you may face during the day. But most important is the fact that you know you have legitimate needs. You know that you need support and encouragement to achieve your goals, that you need shared decision-making and responsibilities, that you need to be included in those decisions and in interactions. And you are that prom date that's looking to be invited. You are the one who wants a personalized invitation. You are one who wants people to reach out to you. And it's not wrong for you to need those things. You are one that needs recognition and you need appreciation for the service that you give. And I'll go one more. You communicate in a very specific way, naturally. Anybody can learn new skills of communication, but the most natural state for you will be people that are looking, people that are wanting to know. Because most of the time, you aren't just going to come out and say it. Whatever it is that you need, most of the time, you aren't just going to come out and say it. Most of the time, you're going to hint at it. Most of the time, you're going to see, because it's just part of knowing and part of being secure in your interactions and especially in your relationships or your work environment, to see how much they're paying attention. What nuances are you really paying attention to? How much of me do you really see? How invested in me are you? And that's an important question for you to have a good, solid answer to. Because the number one theme of an introverted sanguine is to be secure, to have security, the loyalty and consistency that you need most is from those who are paying attention, those who want to know. So you're not wrong for looking, and you're not wrong to only trust those that you can see that are consistent and are loyal. It's not wrong. It's part of your needs. It's not too much. It's not needy. It's part of your language, and it's part of the needs that you have. Just as important as breathing, just as important as eating, sleeping, drinking, water. It's very important that you get your needs met and that your needs are validated. Guys, we went an hour and almost 15 minutes to this point. So, introverted sanguines, we celebrate you. You're 14% of the population. You're kind of a rare breed. It makes sense that the world may not know exactly how to relate with you, and especially to speak up for you and advocate for you above themselves, while they're getting their own needs met, that you are sitting hoping that someone will look to you to help you get your needs met. Not many people are even in that space to look beyond the end of their nose into the world of someone else and operate into their world on their behalf. It takes a very stable person. I hope that Temperament helps bring more people into that space of awareness of not only themselves, but of others. So don't hold the world in contempt. Don't get bitter too fast, because most of the problem is people just don't know. And that's a place of grace. We can give grace to that. We don't get our needs met by staying there, but we're beginning a movement. Do you realize you're on the first part of this global movement of awareness of the lens of temperament? So you're in the right space, you're in the right community, and you're definitely changing the scene by surrounding yourself with a different environment, a different group of people, and that's the community on this broadcast. So I hope that this helps you. In the next episode, we very likely will talk about the other three temperaments in the same way that we did today, but I wanted to cover two that are extremely important, which are the melancholy and the introverted sanguine. If you took a soul breath, recognizing yourself in either one of those, I want you to remember something from the last broadcast that I did. The best professionals who do this for a living to try and nail down a proper diagnosis to tell the difference of, yes, this is the symptoms, yes, this is identifiable, yes, this is what we have, and yes, we need to move forward in treatment. They couldn't do that. Not reliably. They couldn't say, yes, they absolutely 100% have it, and they couldn't say, no, they absolutely 100% do not have it. It was still ambiguous, and it was basically up to the bias of the person observing. That is not true with temperament. I hope that many of the listeners today resonated with one or more of the two temperaments that we talked about today, because you felt it deeper than just surface logic. You felt it deeper, and you went into that space going, there's something here. This resonated with me. I know for a fact a few users did, because I know for a fact a few users are introverted sanguines. And I definitely know that they have melancholy too. So this puts a lot of people in that space. By statistic, let me look at my stats. What did we have? We had 48. 58% and 14%. What is that? A 72%. 72% chance that you, the listener, have one or more of those. I hope it resonated with you. Melancholies, remember, time, tools, and training. That could help you tomorrow. Time, tools, and training, a very reasonable request. Introverted sanguines, remember, you're not needy, but you do need to be around people most that are able to see beyond the end of their nose and look into your world for your sake. The rest of them, it just may not be time. The rest of them may be misaligned. That's okay, but your needs are important, and you can't make people do anything. So you got to be around people that are in that space, that are able to see beyond themselves, to give attention to you, to recognize you, and to be able to assist getting your needs met that you can't meet on your own. Very reasonable and very valid. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the other three. I hope this has been useful for you in this episode. Do not forget that Connie Davis has more resources, and that Kyle Goodnight can help you with anything. Thank you again to you both. Thank you, the listener. The most important broadcast you will ever hear. You made it not only all the way through this one, but you stayed in this emotionally honest space. This is redefining how the world looks individually at people, so that you can move into that space with your own awareness of your own needs. You can say, this is who I am. You can answer that question for yourself, and that's automatically going to put you ahead of most everybody that you rub shoulders with every day. It's going to put you in an empowered position for your life, and you're going to be an active participant of your own health, your own well-being, and it did not involve you having to look at anything through a deficit lens that you're going to heal from by looking at your childhood or walking through that painfully through recognizing that at $175 an hour with no way to know where in the world you're going. This is a solid reference point for you. Your needs matter. They are valid. They are important, and you are worth fighting for yourself in order for you to be in a healthy mental and emotional state, to get your needs met, to brainstorm ways that you can, and to be in a community of people that speak this common language of temperament. Way to go. You are courageous. You're paving the way. And if you're one of those generational breakers, you're paving the way for you, your children, your children's children, and everyone you interact with will be better because you were in a healthier state. This is the Human OS. I am the General. See you next time.